The bullet had already torn through his chest before the first chandelier shattered. Don Matteo Castiglione hit the marble floor with the kind of dull thud that told every guard in the room their careers were over. I was 7 years old, kneeling in a puddle of someone else's blood, pressing my torn petticoat against the wound while grown men screamed orders at each other and did absolutely nothing useful. Little one. His voice relay scraped past his teeth. Get out. Now. No. That single word stopped him cold. Stopped the guards who were finally converging. Stopped the chaos for exactly 1 beat of absolute silence. I pressed harder. The fabric was already soaked through. You're going to live. You're going to stay awake, and you're going to live, and then you're going to find the men who did this, and you're going to make them pay. His eyes flickered with something that might have been respect. Might have been recognition. Who taught you to talk like that? My father. I didn't tell him my father was dead. Didn't tell him the men who killed him were probably in this very room. He said when someone tries to kill you, you don't run. You make sure they never get a second chance. Behind me, someone was screaming about bombs. About detonators hidden in the walls. About the Chinese syndicate and federal agents in a conspiracy that had been building for months. None of it mattered. What mattered was the blood still pumping between my fingers. What mattered was the man bleeding out on the floor while his so-called allies ran for the exits. Sophia. My mother's voice cut through the noise like a knife. Sophia, we have to go. Get the doctor. I didn't look up. Didn't take my hands off the wound. Now. Sophia, now, Mama. She went. I heard her footsteps retreating. Heard her shouting for someone to find a medic. Heard the chaos swirling around us like a hurricane dot. And through it all, Don Matteo watched me with those cold, calculating eyes. You're not afraid. I'm terrified. I met his gaze steadily. But terrified people don't survive. Everyone knows that. The doctor arrived in a blur of white coats and efficient hands. They pushed me aside, took over the wound, sta route shouting about blood loss and transfusions and operating rooms. But I stayed through the chaos, through the screams, through the moment when the guards finally figured out how to do their jobs, and sta route securing the perimeter. I stayed through the gunfire outside, through the screech of tires, through the silence that fell when the last assassin's body hit the pavement. And when they finally ride Don Matteo away on a stretcher, he reached out and grabbed my wrist. Your name, he rasped. Tell me your name. Sophia. Sophia. He said it like he was tasting it, like he was memorizing it. I won't forget this. I won't forget you. I pulled my wrist free and stepped back. You shouldn't waste your strength on promises. You should focus on living. The stretcher moved away, and I was left standing in the middle of a ballroom that smelled like gunpowder and blood and expensive perfume. My mother found me an hour later. Her hands were shaking, her face streaked with TRS, and when she grabbed me, she held on like I was the only thing keeping her tethered to this. All right. What were you thinking? She sobbed. What were you thinking, running into danger like that? I was thinking he was going to die. He should have died. Her voice dropped to a whisper. They all should have died. I pulled back. What are you talking about? Your father. She was shaking now, violent tremors that racked her entire body. Your father was murdered. By them. By the Castigliones. The words didn't make sense. Couldn't make sense. That's not possible. Don Matteo is the one who gave the order. He killed your father, Sophia. He killed him, and then he let us work in his house and pretend we didn't know. The world tilted. The ballroom spun around me, the chandeliers blurring into streaks of light. You knew. The words came out hollow. You knew the whole time. I knew I had to protect you. I knew if I told you the truth, you'd do something reckless. Something that would get you killed. Like what? I laughed, and it was the ugliest sound I'd ever made. Like saving his life, you didn't know? You couldn't have known. Except I did. The realization hit me like a physical blow. I knew there was something wrong. I knew he wasn't what he pretended to be. I just didn't want to believe it. My mother grabbed my shoulders. We're leaving. Tonight. We're going to Heir and never come back. No. Sophia, no, Mama. I met her eyes, and I saw the moment she recognized what was in mine. Something cold. Something hard, something that had been forged in the fire of that single bullet. I'm not running. I'm not hiding. They killed my father. They're going to pay. Don't do this. Please. I can't lose you too. You won't. Because I'm not going to get caught. I reached up and wiped the TRS from her cheeks. And I'm not going to do anything stupid. I'm going to do what Daddy would have done. I'm going to be patient. I'm going to be clever. And when the time is right, I'm going to destroy them. The doctor saved Don Mateo's life. 3 hours of surgery, 2 units of blood, and a bullet that had missed his heart by less than an inch. When he woke up, the first thing he asked for was me, Sophia. He was propped up in bed, pale as a ghost, but already giving orders to his lieutenants. Come here. I walked to his bedside, the perfect picture of a dutiful child. You saved my life, he said. I did what anyone would do. No, you didn't. He reached out and took my hand. You did something exceptional, something that no one else in that room had the courage to do. I was SCA red. Good. He squeezed my fingers. Fia keeps you alive, but you didn't let it stop you. That's what makes you different. I didn't say anything. Couldn't say anything. Not with the truth burning in my throat like poison. I want you to stay with me, he continued. I want you to be part of my family. I'll give you everything you need. Education, protection, opportunities. Whatever you want. Everything except justice. I don't want anything, I said. I just want to stay with my mother. Of course. He smiled, and it was almost kind. Almost RM, you'll stay with your mother. But you'll also be my guest. My special guest. And when you're older, we'll talk about your future. He had no idea what my future was going to look like. No idea that I was already planning it. Already seeing the day when he would kneel at my feet and beg for mercy. But I smiled back. Thank you, Don Mateo. I won't forget this. I know you won't. He released my hand and lay back against the pillows. I know you won't. Vinny escorted me out of the room. The big Guard had been watching me with something like wariness in his eyes. And when we were alone in the hallway, he stopped walking. You shouldn't have done that, he said. Saved his life. Saved his life. His voice was low, rough. Because now he owns you. Now he'll never let you go. Maybe I don't want to be let go. He studied me for a long moment. What are you planning, little girl? Nothing. I met his gaze steadily. I'm just trying to survive. Liar. But there was something like respect in his voice. You're a liar and a schemer, and you're going to get yourself killed. Then maybe you should help me. He laughed, a short, sharp sound. You want my help? What makes you think I'd give it? Because you know what they did. To my father. To all the people they've destroyed. I stepped closer. Because you're not like them. I've seen the way you look at them. The way you look at him. You don't believe in what they do. He was silent for a long time. Then he said, You're too young for this. I won't be young forever. He looked at me like he was seeing something he'd never seen before. And maybe he was. Get some sleep, he finally said. Tomorrow, we start your training. What kind of training? The kind that will keep you alive. He turned and walked away. The kind that will make you useful. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in the narrow cot in my mother's quarters. Ring at the ceiling, replaying every moment of the evening in my head. The chaos. The gunfire. The blood on my hands. And the look in Don Mateo's eyes when he realized I was telling him what to do. I didn't know what the future held. Didn't know how long it would take or what it would cost. But I knew one thing with absolute certainty. Don Mateo Castiglione had just made the biggest mistake of his life. He'd trusted a child, and that child was going to destroy him. 3 weeks later, I made my first move. It was small, almost insignificant. But it was the first domino in a chain that would eventually bring the entire Castiglione empire crashing down. I rude watching. Not the way children watch, with curiosity and wonder. I root watching the way a predator watches its prey. I cataloged every movement, every gesture, every word. I read the patterns of the household, the rhythms of power, the secrets that people thought they were keeping hidden. I watched Don Mateo with his daughter Valentina. Watched the way he dismissed her, ignored her, treated her like an inconvenience. Watched the way she watched me with growing resentment. She was an ally waiting to happen. I watched the way the Guards moved through the house. The way they spoke to each other when they thought no one was listening. The way they looked at Don Mateo when his back was turned. They were soldiers, but they weren't loyal. They were hired hands, and hired hands could be bought. I watched Vinny, the only one who had seen through me, who had recognized the schemer hiding behind the child's face. He was dangerous, but he was also useful. And then I watched Enzo Moretti. He came to the estate a month after the attack, striding through the halls like he owned the place. I remembered him from the Pa Rudy. Remembered the way he had been reaching for his gun when the Don shot him. He should have been dead, but the bullet had only hit his shoulder. He'd been taken away by his own men, patched up, and now he was back, with a smile on his face and a lie on his lips. Sophia. He knelt in front of me, his expression full of practiced rmth. I'm so sorry about what happened at the Pa Rudy. I was so worried about you. You were worried about me. I kept my voice soft, innocent. But you were the one who got shot. An accident. A terrible accident. He reached out to touch my cheek. But I'm fine now. And I came to see you. To make sure you're okay. I let him touch me. Let him pretend to see Heir. But I was watching his eyes, and his eyes were watching the door behind me. He wasn't here to see me. He was here to see the Don. Uncle Enzo, I said, using the name he'd told me to call him. What really happened at the Pa Rudy? Why did everyone start shooting? His smile flickered. It's complicated. Adults being stupid, that's all. Nothing for you to worry about. But I was red. I couldn't sleep for weeks. The guilt flickered across his face. Just for a moment. And in that moment, I knew he had been part of it. The attack. The bombs. The assassins. He had been one of them. The men who tried to murder Don Matteo. But he had also been my father's killer. I felt it like a knife in my chest. The certainty, the absolute knowledge that this man had taken my father away from me. And then I smiled at him. Thank you for coming to see me, Uncle Enzo. It means so much. He relaxed. Of course, little one. I'll always be here for you. He left, and I went back to my hiding place. Back to watching. Back to planning that the game was on. And I intended to win. The years passed like seasons. I grew taller, sharper, more dangerous. Don Matteo kept his promise. He gave me everything he'd offered. Education, protection, opportunities. But he never knew what I was really learning. I learned how to read people. How to find their weaknesses. How to exploit them. I learned how to move through the world without being seen. How to listen without being heroed. I learned how to fight. How to kill. How to survive. And I learned who my real enemies were. Enzo Moretti was the first. My uncle. The man who had killed my father. The man who had smiled at me while his hands were still stained with blood. But he wasn't the last. There were others. Dozens of them. Men who had stood by and watched. Men who had profited from my father's death. Men who had sworn loyalty to Don Matteo while plotting his downfall. And at the center of it all, the man himself. The one who had given the order. The one who had made it all possible. I was 16 when I was ready. I had waited 9 years. 9 years of patience and planning and quiet. CA refill preparation. 9 years of watching and waiting and learning. And now it was time to strike. At the first target was Enzo. He came to the estate for the Don's annual birthday celebration. The same event where everything had root 9 years ago. The same ballroom. The same chandeliers. The same crowd of sycophants and traitors. But everything had changed. I was no longer the red little girl kneeling in a puddle of blood. I was something else entirely. Something that no one in that room could see coming. Sophia. Enzo approached me with the same practiced smile, the same false rmth. You've grown into such a beautiful young woman. Thank you, Uncle Enzo. I smiled back, and the smile was genuine. Because I knew what was coming. I've missed you. Missed me. I've been right here. Not really. I stepped closer, lowering my voice. You've been busy. Making plans. Making deals. Making sure that everything was in place. His smile flickered. What are you talking about? I'm talking about the bombs, Uncle Enzo. The ones you helped plant 9 years ago. The ones that should have killed Don Matteo. The blood drained from his face. How do you know about? I know everything. I reached out and touched his arm, leaning in like we were sharing a secret. I know about the Chinese syndicate. I know about the federal agents. I know about the deal you made to split the territory. Sophia, you don't understand. I understand perfectly. My voice was a whisper. I understand that you killed my father. I understand that you've been planning to kill Don Matteo for years. And I understand that you've made a terrible mistake. He tried to pull away, but I held on. What mistake? You trusted me. The knife slid between his ribs before he could react. The same knife I'd been rying for years. The one I'd used to kill my first man. He made a soft sound, a gasp of surprise. And then the life drained out of his eyes. I pulled the knife free and stepped back, watching him crumple to the floor. The chaos erupted immediately. Gua RDS SWA remed the room. pulling weapons and shouting orders. But I was already gone, melting into the shadows like I'd been taught. Don Matteo would find the body. He would find the knife with Enzo's blood on it. But he would never find me, because I was no longer the little girl who had saved his life. I was the one who was going to end it, the Pa Rudy continued. Of course it did. The Castigliones never let anything interrupt their celebrations. Even death. But this death was different. This death was a message. And the message was simple. No one was safe. Not the traitors. Not the allies. Not the innocent. And not Don Matteo Castiglione, the man who had killed my father and pretended to love me. I watched him from across the room. Watched him smiling and shaking hands, playing the role of the gracious host while his empire crumbled around him. He didn't know what was coming, didn't know that the child he had trusted was the one holding the knife but he would Leah Aron. And when he did, he would finally understand what he had created. A monster. His monster. And that monster was coming for him. The investigation lasted exactly 4 hours before Don Matteo called me to his study. I had been waiting for this moment. Had been preparing for it since the knife slid between Enzo's ribs. I knew the Don would want answers. Knew he would be suspicious. Knew that every move I made from this point forward would be scrutinized like never before. But I also knew something he didn't. I knew he was afraid. Close the door, he said when I entered. His voice was calm, but I could see the tension in his shoulders. The way his fingers drummed against the desk. The way his eyes never left my face. I closed the door and stood in front of his desk, hands clasped behind my back. The perfect picture of obedience. You wanted to see me, Don Matteo. Enzo Moretti is dead. He said it flatly, watching for my reaction. Stabbed in the middle of my birthday celebration. In front of my guests. He wrote. I kept my voice neutral. It's terrible. Is it? He leaned forward, and now his eyes were blazing. Because I have a witness who says they saw you talking to him moments before he died. I have a witness who says you were the last person who spoke to him. Many people spoke to him. It was a Pa Rudy. Don't play games with me, Sophia. He rose from his chair, and suddenly he was looming over me. The man who had built an empire with blood and violence. The man who had killed my father. I've known you for 9 years. I've watched you grow from a SCA red little girl into something else entirely. Something I don't recognize. Perhaps you never recognized me at all. He went still. What does that mean? It means you made a mistake. I met his gaze steadily. You trusted me because I was a child. Because you thought I was simple. But I was never simple, Don Matteo. I was just waiting. Waiting for what? Waiting for the right moment. I smiled, and I knew it was the smile of a predator. Waiting for the chance to destroy everything you've built. He reached for the gun on his desk, but I was faster. The knife that had killed Enzo was already in my hand, pressed against his throat before he could blink. Don't, I said softly. Don't make this harder than it has to be. You can't kill me. His voice was steady, but I could feel his pulse racing beneath the blade. The guardias re outside. They'll kill you the moment I'm dead. They won't. I pressed the blade closer. Because they work for me now. All of them. Every single guardi in this house. They've been waiting for this moment too. That's impossible. I've known Vinny for 20 years. He would never. Vinny is the one who helped me plan it. I laughed, and it was the ugliest sound I'd ever made. He's been working for me since I was 7 years old. Since the night you almost died. He saw what you really were. He saw the monster behind the mask. The Don's face went white. You've been planning this for 9 years, longer. I pressed the blade harder, watching a bead of blood well up on his throat. I've been planning this since the moment you killed my father. Your father, he read at me blankly. I don't know who your father was. His name was Antonio Moretti. He worked the docks. He saw something he shouldn't have seen. And you killed him for it. Recognition flickered in his eyes. The dock worker who discovered the weapons shipment. He threatened to go to the police. He was going to do the right thing. And you murdered him. I didn't murder him. The Don shook his head slowly. I never gave that order. That was Enzo. Enzo was the one who. Enzo is dead. I smiled, and I knew it wasn't a nice smile. I killed him for my father. But you were the one who created him. You were the one who built this empire on blood and lies. And now I'm going to tear it all down. What do you want? His voice cracked. Money, power, I'll give you anything. Just name it. I want you to suffer. I met his eyes, and I let him see everything. The pain, the rage, the years of hatred that had festered inside me. I want you to watch everything you've built crumble into dust. I want you to lose everyone you love. I want you to die alone and forgotten. Sophia, I'm not finished. I pressed the blade rider, watching the blood trickle down his neck. I want you to know that your death won't be quick. It won't be merciful. It will be slow and painful, and every moment of it will be a gift from me. Vinny burst through the door at that moment, followed by a dozen guardians. They surrounded the Don, weapons drawn, but they weren't aiming at me, they were aiming at him. It's done, Vinny said. We've secured the building. All of his loyalists are either dead or in custody. Good. I stepped back from the Don, sheathing my knife. Start with the daughter. Bring her to me. No. The Don lunged for me, but the guardians caught him, pinning him to the wall. Leave her out of this. She had nothing to do with any of it. She had everything to do with it. I walked over to the window, looking out at the estate I had spent 9 years dreaming of destroying. She was the one who made it all possible. Because you ignored her. You dismissed her. You made her feel invisible and worthless. And she was so desperate for attention that she was willing to betray you. That's not true. She's just a child. She's 18 years old. I turned to face him. And she's been feeding me information for the past 5 years. Every secret meeting. Every hidden document. Every betrayal you thought you were keeping hidden. She gave me all of it. The Don's face crumpled. Valentina, my daughter, your daughter. I walked back to him, standing close enough that I could see the TRS in his eyes. She hates you almost as much as I do. And when this is over, she's going to take your place. She's going to be the new head of the Castiglione family. And she's going to be 1,000 times more ruthless than you ever were. You can't do this. You can't. I can. I leaned in, close enough to whisper in his ear. And I will. Because you made me this way, Don Matteo. You took a little girl who just wanted her father back, and you turned her into a monster. And now that monster is going to destroy you. I walked out of the study without looking back. Behind me, I heard the Don scream. He rode Vinny's voice, giving orders. He rode the sound of a man's world falling apart, and I felt nothing but the cold, familiar emptiness that had become my constant companion. Valentina was waiting for me in the Garden. The same Garden where her father had taught me to find 4-leaf clovers. The same Garden where my mother had cried for my father. Is it done? She asked. Her voice was flat, empty. The voice of a child who had been forced to grow up too fast. It's done. I sat down on the stone bench beside her. He's been taken to the basement. He'll be kept alive until we decide what to do with him. He deserves to die. He will. I reached out and took her hand. But first, he has to watch everything he loved disappear. Like you did. Like I did. Valentina nodded slowly. The documents are all in place. The accounts have been transferred. The loyalists have been identified and neutralized. Everything is ready. Good. I squeezed her hand. Then we start the next phase tomorrow. What happens to us after? She turned to look at me, and for the first time, I saw the fear in her eyes. After this is all over. What happens to us, I don't know. I read out at the Garden, at the flowers that had always seemed so beautiful and innocent. I never thought that ahead. I've been so focused on revenge that I never considered what comes after. Maybe that's the problem. Valentina's voice was soft. Maybe we've been so focused on destroying him that we forgot to build something for ourselves. I didn't answer. Couldn't answer. Because she was right. And I hated that she was right, that I had spent 9 years planning my revenge. 9 years of hate and rage and cold, calculated fury. And now that I had it, now that I was standing at the precipice of victory, I realized I had no idea what came next. Up the next morning, I woke up in the Don's bed. Not his bed exactly, but the bed in the master suite that had once belonged to him and his wife. The bed where he had slept while plotting the deaths of countless men. That I sat up and looked around the room. The silk sheets, the expensive furniture, the paintings on the walls that had been stolen from families like mine. And I felt nothing. No triumph. No satisfaction. Just the same cold emptiness that had been with me for as long as I could remember. Vinny knocked on the door at precisely 7 in the morning. I told him to come in, and he entered with a tray of coffee and pastries. Words already spreading, he said, setting the tray on the table. The other families are nervous. They're not sure what to make of a woman taking over the Castiglione Empire. They'll leave RN to accept it. I poured myself a cup of coffee, not bothering to look at him. Or they'll Leah Arin to Fia Arit. There's one more thing. He hesitated. We found something in the Dawn's private safe. Something that I think you should see. What is it? It's about your father. I went still. What about him? There was a letter. From your father. Addressed to Don Mateo. It was written the day before he died. Where is it? In the study. I brought it to show you. I followed him to the study, my heart pounding despite myself. 9 rs of sea urging for answers. And now they were sitting in an envelope on the Don's desk. I opened it with shaking hands and began to read. The letter was short. Just a few sentences. But those sentences changed everything to asterisk Don Mateo, asterisk, asterisk I know what you did. I know about the weapons shipment. I know about the children in the basement. And I know about the men who are going to die because of it. Asterisk. Asterisk I've been watching you for months. Waiting for the right moment to act. But I realize now that I'm too weak. Too SCA red. I've spent my whole life running from the truth, and I'm tired of running. Asterisk. Asterisk I'm going to the police tomorrow. I'm going to tell them everything. And if you try to stop me, I'll make sure the whole world knows what you've done. Asterisk. Asterisk, but I want you to know one thing first. Asterisk. Asterisk my daughter, Sophia, is the most important thing in my life. She's SMA ruder and braver than I'll ever be. And I'm doing this for her. So she can grow up in a world where men like you don't exist. Asterisk. I'm not afraid of you anymore. Asterisk Antonio Moretti asterisk I read the letter twice. 3 times. And each time, the words hit me like a physical blow that he wasn't killed because of the weapons shipment, that he wasn't killed because of the police, that he was killed because he threatened Don Mateo. Because he was trying to protect me. Sophia, Vinny's voice was hesitant. What does it say? It says my father was the bravest man I ever knew. I folded the letter carefully and tucked it into my pocket. And it says that Don Mateo had a very good reason to want him dead. Does that change anything? I thought about it. Thought about the 9 rs of hatred that had driven me. Thought about the people I had killed and the lives I had destroyed, and I realized that it didn't change anything at all. No. I looked up at Vinny, and I knew my eyes were cold. Because even if he was right, even if my father was the one who made the first move, it doesn't change what they did. They still took him from me. They still left me alone in the world. And they still made me into this. Into what? Into someone who can't feel anything anymore. I laughed, and the sound was hollow. I've been so focused on revenge that I've forgotten how to be human. I've forgotten how to love, how to trust, how to hope. Maybe you don't need those things anymore. Maybe I don't. I walked to the window, looking out at the estate I now controlled. But maybe I want them back. Vinny was silent for a long moment. Then he said, what happens now with the Don, with the family, with everything? Now we rebuild. I turned back to face him. We take everything he built, and we make it something better. Something that doesn't destroy people like my father. Something that doesn't create monsters like me. And the Don, he stays in the basement until I decide what to do with him. I paused, but I want to see him first. Alone. I'll take you down there. The basement of the Castiglione estate was cold and damp, a stark contrast to the luxury above. Don Mateo was chained to a chair in the center of the room, his face bruised and his clothes torn. He looked up when I entered, and I saw the hatred in his eyes. Come to gloat, his voice was Hoa Ara, come to talk. I pulled up a chair and sat down across from him. I found the letter, the one my father wrote to you. He was going to destroy me. The Don's voice was bitter. He was going to destroy everything I'd built. He was going to do the right thing. I leaned 4-way road, and you killed him for it. He threatened everything I loved, just like I'm doing now. He was silent for a long moment. Then he said, you're more like me than you realize. I know. I met his gaze steadily. That's what SCA residential me the most. We STA read at each other across the empty space between us. 2 monsters, forged in fire and blood. 2 people who had been shaped by violence and loss. What do you want from me? He finally asked. I want you to understand. I leaned 4-way RD, my voice dropping to a whisper. I want you to understand that everything that's happening to you is because of your choices. Not mine. Not my father's. Yours. You made this world. And now you have to live in it. Or die in it, either way. I rose from my chair. But I'm not going to kill you. Not yet. I want you to watch. I want you to see what I'm going to build. I want you to know that your empire is in better hands than it ever was in yours. And then I'll decide if you deserve to live. I walked out of the basement without looking back. Behind me, I heard Don Matteo screaming. But his screams were hollow, the cries of a man who had finally realized that he had lost everything. And I felt nothing but the cold, familiar emptiness that had become my constant companion. That the weeks that followed were a blur of activity. I met with the heads of the other families. I negotiated new deals. I consolidated the Castiglione empire and made it my own. Valentina stood beside me through all of it. My partner, my ally, the sister I had never had. And Vinny was always there, watching my back, keeping me safe. But at night, when I was alone in the master suite, I couldn't sleep. Couldn't stop thinking about the letter. About my father. About the brave man who had tried to protect me and died for it. I'm doing this for you. I whispered into the darkness. Everything I've done, it's all for you. And somewhere, in the depths of my soul, I felt something shift. Something that might have been hoped. The first assassination attempt came on a Tuesday. I was in the GA Rudin, the same GA Rudin where everything had sta root, when the bullet whizzed past my EAR and embedded itself in the stone bench behind me. I hit the ground before the sound of the shot reached me, rolling behind a hedge as the second bullet tore through the leaves where I'd been standing. Vinny was there in an instant, his body shielding mine as he returned fire. I heard the thud of a body hitting the ground, and then silence. "Are you hurt?" He pulled me to my feet, his hands running over my arms, my shoulders, checking for wounds. "I'm fine." I pushed him away, already scanning the tree line for more threats. Who was it? One of the Gallo family's men. The Don's been looking for a reason to make a move. Vinny's face was grim. He just found one. The Gallo family. One of the smaller crime families that had always been subservient to the Castiglione Empire. Under Don Matteo, they'd been kept in line with threats and violence. Under me, they clearly thought they could push back. They were wrong. "Get Valentina," I said. "Tell her to secure the perimeter. I want every single one of the Gallo family's operations identified within the hour. Sophia, you can't just..." "I can." I met his eyes. "And I will. They want to play games, fine. We'll play games. But I'm going to win." The retaliation was swift and brutal. Within 48 hours, every Gallo family operation within 100 miles had been shut down. Their shipments intercepted. Their men arrested or killed. Their money frozen. And then I made an example of their Don. He was brought to the Castiglione estate in chains, thrown at my feet in the same ballroom where Don Matteo had almost died 9 years ago. Sophia Castiglione. He spat the name like a curse. "You think you can just take over this city? You think people will follow a woman? People will follow anyone who's strong enough to lead." I walked around him slowly, my heels clicking against the marble floor. "And I've already proven I'm stronger than you. Stronger than Matteo. Stronger than anyone who's come before me. You're a child playing at power." Am I? I stopped in front of him, looking down at his bruised, bloody face. "Because it seems to me that I'm the one standing and you're the one kneeling. That's not a child playing at power. That's a leader exercising control. You'll never keep it." He laughed, and the sound was ugly. "Sooner or later, someone will take everything from you. Just like you took it from Matteo. Just like he took it from the people before him. This is how it always ends." "Maybe." I knelt down, bringing my face level with his. "But not today, and not by you." I nodded to the guards, and they dragged him away. I heard his screams echoing through the halls, and I felt nothing. But that night, alone in my room, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying his words. This is how it always ends. Was he right? Was I just another link in a chain of violence and betrayal? Would someone else eventually come along and take everything I'd built? And if they did, would I deserve it? The next morning, I went to see Don Matteo. He was still in the basement, still chained to the same chair. But he looked older now, weaker. The weeks of captivity had taken their toll on him. "Sophia." His voice was a whisper. "Come to gloat again, come to ask for advice." He laughed, a hollow sound. "Advice from your prisoner? You've been where I am." I pulled up a chair and sat down across from him. "You've faced assassination attempts. You've watched enemies try to tear down everything you built. How did you survive?" I became more ruthless. He met my eyes, and for a moment, I saw the old fire in them. I made examples of my enemies. I showed them that crossing me meant death. Not just for them, but for everyone they loved. "I've already done that. Have you? Because I hear the Gallo family is still breathing, still plotting, still thinking they can take what's yours. I was silent for a moment. Then I said, what would you do? I would destroy them. His voice was cold. Not just their operations. Not just their dawn. I would destroy their families. Their children. Everyone who might grow up to seek revenge against me. That's how you created monsters like Enzo. I created survivors. He leaned forward as far as his chains would allow. And that's what you need to be. A survivor. Not a ruler. Not a leader. A survivor. Because in this world, that's the only thing that matters. I studied him for a long moment. You're trying to manipulate me. I'm trying to help you. His eyes blazed with intensity. Because I know what's coming, Sophia. I know the families are going to unite against you. I know they're going to try to tear you down. And if you're not ready, if you're not ruthless enough, you'll die. Maybe I don't want to live that way anymore. Then you're already dead. He leaned back in his chair. You just don't know it yet. I left the basement feeling more unsettled than I had in Yaris. The Don's words echoed in my head, a constant reminder of the path I had chosen. But I wasn't him. I wouldn't become him. That I would find another way. To Valentina was waiting for me in the study, her face pale and her hands shaking. What happened? I asked. Already moving. Tawa, R.D. heard. There's been a development. She held out a piece of paper. A letter. Delivered to the main gate this morning. I took the paper and read it. The words were simple. Dired. Asterisk to the new head of the Castiglione family. Asterisk. Asterisk, we have your mother. If you want to see her alive, you will meet us at the old Wari house on the waterfront. Come alone. Come Unarmed. Come tonight at midnight. Asterisk. If you bring anyone else, she dies. Asterisk the families. Asterisk, I felt the blood drain from my face. My mother. The one person I had been trying to protect through all of this. The one person who had always been there for me. Even when I didn't deserve it, they took her, I said, and my voice was a whisper. They took my mother. Sophia, you can't go. Valentina grabbed my ARM. It's a trap. They're going to kill you. I know. I pulled free. But I have to try. Sophia, you don't understand. She's the only person I have left. The only person who's ever loved me unconditionally. I can't let her die. Then let me come with you. Let me bring Guardias. We can, no. I shook my head. They said alone. Unarmed. If I bring anyone else, they'll kill her. I can't take that chance. So you're just going to walk into a trap. You're going to let them kill you. I'm going to save my mother. I met her eyes. And if that means I die trying, then at least I'll die knowing I did everything I could. ISTA route planning immediately. The Wari house on the waterfront was a known location, an old shipping depot that had been abandoned for years. It was the perfect place for an ambush. I knew I was walking into a trap, knew that the families were going to try to kill me the moment I arrived. But I also knew that I had to try it, because my mother was the only thing that mattered. That I left the estate at 11 o'clock that night. I didn't tell anyone where I was going. Didn't say goodbye to Valentina, or Vinny, or anyone else. I just slipped out into the darkness and read. The Wari house was dark and silent when I arrived. I stood outside for a long moment, listening, waiting. Nothing moved. Nothing made a sound. And then the lights came on. I was surrounded. Dozens of men, all armed, all trained killers. They came out of the shadows like ghosts, their weapons trained on me, the new Castiglione Don. One of them stepped forward. RD, a massive man with a SCA R across his face. I was expecting someone bigger. I was expecting someone SMA ruder. I met his gaze steadily. But I guess we're both disappointed. He laughed, a hot RSH sound. You've got guts, I'll give you that. But guts won't save you. Where's my mother? She's here. He gestured to the back of the Wari house, where I could just make out a figure tied to a chair. She's been waiting for you. Let her go. Let her go, he laughed again. Why would I do that? She's the only reason you're here. The only reason I'm going to be able to kill you without any resistance. I had expected this. Had known they would use her as leverage. But knowing it and being prepared for it were two very different things. What do you want? I asked. Money, territory, I'll give you anything. I want your head. He stepped closer, his weapon trained on my chest. I want to be the man who killed the woman who took over the Castiglione family. I want the power and the respect that comes with it. You won't get either. I reached into my pocket, and the men tensed, waiting for me to pull a weapon. Instead, I pulled out a small device. Because I have people who are going to make sure you pay for this. What is that, a signal? I pressed the button, and instantly, the lights went out. Chaos erupted. Men shouted. Guns fired. But I was already moving. I had planned for this. Had known that they would try to use my mother against me. Had prepared a backup plan that no one knew about, that the men in the Wari house were dead within 5 minutes. My people, the ones I had brought despite the threat, had been waiting in the shadows the whole time. They had been ready. They had been prepared. And they had saved my mother, Sophia. She was crying when I reached her, her body shaking with relief. Sophia, you came for me. Of course I came for you. I untied her bonds and pulled her into my arms. You're my mother. I would do anything for you. But I lied to you. I kept the truth from you. It doesn't matter. I held her tighter. None of it matters. You're safe. That's all that counts. She pulled back, her eyes sea-urching my face. What happens now? Now we go home. I guided her Tawa RD the exit. And we figure out the rest together. The family's plan had failed. But the damage had been done. The message had been sent, they were coming for me. All of them. And they wouldn't stop until I was dead. Vinny was waiting for me when I got back to the estate. His face was pale, his eyes filled with an emotion I couldn't quite read. Are you okay? He asked. I'm fine. My mother's fine. I paused. But this isn't going to end. They're never going to stop. I know. He stepped closer. That's why I need to tell you something. What? I've been keeping a secret from you. His voice was low, almost hesitant. A secret that's going to change everything. I went still. What secret? He took a deep breath. Your mother was right. About the Castigliones. About Don Matteo. But she was wrong about one thing. What? Your father. He met my eyes. He wasn't killed because of the weapons shipment. He wasn't killed because of the police. He was killed because he was trying to leave the family. Leave the family that doesn't make sense. He was a member of the Castiglione family, Sophia. He was a made man. A soldier. He had been working for Don Matteo for years. The world tilted. That's not possible. My father was a dock worker. He was a spy. Vinny's voice was gentle. He was working undercover for the federal government. He had been gathering evidence against Don Matteo for years. And he was about to deliver it when he was killed. I read at him, my mind reeling. My father was a federal agent. He was a good man. Vinny reached out and took my hand. He was trying to bring down the Castiglione family from the inside. And he would have succeeded if Enzo hadn't discovered his true identity. Enzo knew. Enzo was the one who killed him. Vinny's voice was heavy with regret. He was the one who gave the order. Not Don Matteo. Enzo. And when the Don found out, he covered it up. He didn't want anyone to know that his own brother-in-law had been working for the government. I pulled my hand free. Why are you telling me this now? Because I think you need to know the truth. He stepped closer. Because I think you've been so focused on revenge that you forgot to ask the most important question. What question? Who was your father? Really, what was he trying to do? What would he have wanted you to do? I didn't have an answer. Couldn't find the words. My father had been a hero. A man who had sacrificed everything to bring down the Castiglione family. He would have wanted me to finish what he route. To bring them down once and for all. But I was the head of the Castiglione family now. I was the one who had to make the decisions. The one who had to decide what kind of world I wanted to live in. I need to think, I said finally. I need some time alone. Vinny nodded. I understand. He left, and I was alone in the study. Alone with the truth that had just been revealed to me. My father was a hero. And I was the villain. The next morning, I made a decision. I called a meeting with the heads of all the families. Everyone who had been part of the plot against me. Everyone who had tried to destroy the Castiglione Empire. They came because they had to. Because they knew that if they didn't, I would destroy them. Thank you for coming, I said, my voice echoing through the ballroom. I know this isn't easy for any of you, but I think it's time we had a conversation. A conversation about what one of them asked, about the future. I walked to the center of the room, looking at each of them in turn. About the kind of world we want to live in. The kind of world we want to leave for our children. You want to talk about peace. Another laughed. You killed half our men. I killed half your men because you tried to kill me first. I met his gaze steadily. But I'm not here to talk about the past. I'm here to talk about the future. What future? A future where we don't have to live in fear. I paused. A future where we don't have to kill each other for power. A future where we can build something that lasts. The families were silent for a long moment. Then one of them spoke up. What do you want, Sophia? I want to change things. I looked around the room. I want to create a world where my father could have lived, where good men don't have to die because of the lies and violence that rule our lives. And how are you going to do that? By making peace. I met their eyes one by one, not just with each other, but with ourselves, by putting down our weapons and learning to trust again. They didn't believe me. I could see it in their eyes. The suspicion, the mistrust, the fear, but they had no choice. I had already won, and the world I was going to build was going to be better than anything that had come before. The peace didn't last 6 weeks. That I should have known better. Should have realized that men who had spent their entire lives building empires through violence and betrayal wouldn't just abandon everything because a 19-year-old girl asked them nicely. But I had been naive, foolish. I had let hope cloud my judgment, and now people were going to die because of it. The attack came at dawn. 3 families united against me. The Gallos, the Rossis, and the Pharaoh Ras. They had been meeting in secret, planning their assault while I was busy dreaming of a future that would never come. They hit the estate from 3 sides simultaneously. The main gate, the east wall, the service entrance. They had soldiers positioned inside the house, servants who had been turned, guards who had been bought. I woke to the sound of gunfire and screaming. Vinny was already there, pulling me out of bed, shoving a weapon into my hands. We've been betrayed. The security systems, down. We have to move. Where's Valentina? Safe. I've got Mingua riding her. But we need to get you out of here now. No. I shook my head, already moving the door. I'm not running. Not again. Sophia, we're outnumbered. We're outgunned. If we stay, if we run, we lose everything. Everything I've built. Everything my father died for. I met his eyes. I'm not going to let that happen. We fought our way through the house, room by room. I killed 3 men in the hallway, 2 more in the ballroom. I was moving on instinct now, muscle memory taking over, my body doing things that my mind couldn't process. Vinny was beside me the whole time, his massive frame shielding me from the worst of it. He took a bullet in the shoulder, but he kept going, kept fighting, kept protecting me. And then we reached the basement. Go. Vinny pushed me the stairs. I'll hold them off. No, I'm not leaving you. Sophia, you have to. He's the only one who can help us now. He knows these people. He knows how they think. He can give us the advantage we need. I hesitated for a fraction of a second, and then I ran. Don Mateo was still chained to his chair when I burst into the room. He looked up, his eyes widening as he took in my bloody, battered rants. Sophia, what happened? The families. I was already working on his chains. They're attacking the estate. I need your help. My help, he laughed, but there was no humor in it. You have me chained up like an animal, and now you want my help. I want to make a deal. I freed his wrists and stepped back. You help me defeat them, and I'll let you go. I'll give you back everything I took from you. You do that, I'd do anything to protect the people I see about. I met his eyes. I've already lost too much. I'm not losing anymore. He studied me for a long moment. What's the catch? No catch. Just help me save my family. The Don rose from the chair, rubbing his wrists where the chains had been. He looked at me with an expression I couldn't quite read. You've changed, he said finally. The girl who put me in these chains wouldn't have asked for help. She would have tried to fight them all on her own. She was stupid. I turned the door. Are you coming or not? He followed me out of the basement. We emerged into chaos. Bodies everywhere. Gunfire echoing through the halls. The screams of the dying and the wounded. But the Don moved through it like he had never left. He grabbed a weapon from one of the fallen guards and root giving orders. His voice right authority, command. The remaining defenders rallied around him, responding to his voice like they had never stopped following him. It was a strange sight. The man I had hated for so long, fighting beside me, protecting me, saving my life. Stay close, he ordered, his eyes scanning the room. And for God's sake, try not to get yourself killed. I've survived worse. Have you? He glanced at me, and there was something like concern in his eyes. Because it looks to me like you've been surviving by the skin of your teeth. And that's not a sustainable strategy. I'm doing the best I can. Then do better. He grabbed my ARM and pulled me behind a fallen table as a hail of bullets tore through the space where we'd been standing. You're not invincible, Sophia. You're not immortal. You're a human being who can be killed just like everyone else. And if you don't start acting like it, you're going to get yourself killed. I know. I met his eyes. But I don't see a re. You should. He held my gaze for a long moment. Because if you die, everything your father died for dies with you. Everything I've built dies with you. Everything you've tried to create dies with you. I don't see a re about any of that. Then see a re about your mother. See a re about Valentina. See a re about all the people who are counting on you to survive. His voice was fierce, almost angry. Because they need you, Sophia. Whether you like it or not. I didn't have time to respond. More attackers were coming, and we had to fight. Had to survive. Had to keep each other alive. The battle raged for what felt like hours. The Don's experience and leadership made all the difference. He knew the house inside and out. Knew where to hide, where to attack, where to retreat. He gave orders that turned the tide, soon reuniting the defenders into a cohesive fighting force. And when it was over, when the last of the attackers had been killed or captured, I found myself standing in the middle of the ballroom, surrounded by bodies, covered in blood that wasn't mine. We did it, I whispered. We actually did it. B.A. Rely. The Don was beside me, his face pale with exhaustion and blood loss. But we're still standing. That counts for something. It counts for everything. I turned to look at him. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. This isn't over. They'll regroup. They'll try again. And next time, they won't give you any warning. Then we'll be ready. Will you? He met my eyes. Because you weren't ready for this. You were caught off guard. You almost lost everything. I know. I looked away. I was stupid. I thought I could change things without making enemies. I thought I could make peace without spilling blood. Peace is a luxury, Sophia. It's something that comes after the fighting is over. Not before. Then how do I make it stop? How do I end this? You can't. His voice was gentle. Not entirely. You can reduce the violence. You can make things better. But you can't eliminate it completely. Because as long as there are people who want power, there will be people who are willing to kill for it. I was silent for a long moment. Then I said, my father believed he could change things. He was a good man. The Don's voice was quiet. A better man than I ever was. He believed in justice. In doing the right thing. And he died for it. You killed him. No. He shook his head. Enzo killed him. I covered it up. I was ashamed. Ashamed that one of my own men could do something so terrible. Ashamed that I had created a world where people thought it was acceptable to kill a good man. You could have stopped it. You could have brought Enzo to justice. I know. He met my eyes. And I've regretted it every day since. I didn't say anything. Couldn't say anything. Because in that moment, I saw something in his eyes that I had never seen before. Remorse, that's Sophia. His voice was soft. I know you hate me. I know you've spent years planning your revenge. And I don't blame you. I deserve everything that's happened to me. Everything and more. You're not going to try to manipulate me again, no. He shook his head. I'm done manipulating. I'm done lying. I'm done pretending to be something I'm not. I've spent my entire life building an empire on blood and lies, and it's destroyed everyone I've ever loved. Everyone except you. Except me. He laughed, and the sound was bitter. I've survived everything. The assassination attempts. The betrayals. The years of captivity. And I still don't know why. I still don't know what I'm supposed to do with the life I've been given. Maybe you're supposed to help me. I met his eyes. Maybe this is your chance to make things right. Make things right, he shook his head. I can't bring back the people I've killed. I can't undo the damage I've done. No, but you can help me prevent it from happening again. He was silent for a long moment. Then he said, what do you want me to do? I want you to help me negotiate with the families. To use your influence to bring them to the table. To make them understand that I'm not their enemy. And what happens when they refuse? Then we'll have to find another way. The negotiations sta route the next day. The Don's presence at the table made all the difference. The other families respected him. Fia read him. They listened to him in a way they would never listen to me. Sophia is the future of this organization, he told them. She's stronger than I ever was. SMA root her. More ruthless when she needs to be. And if you don't work with her, if you try to destroy her, you'll be destroying yourselves. You expect us to believe that, one of the Dons scoffed. She's a child. A woman. She doesn't know the first thing about running a criminal empire. She knows more than you think. The Don's voice was cold. And she's already proven that she's willing to do what needs to be done. Just ask Enzo Moretti. If he could still talk, he'd tell you exactly what she's capable of. The table went silent. They knew what I had done. Had he RD the stories. And they knew that the Don's words were true. I'm not asking you to trust me, I said, speaking for the first time. I'm not asking you to like me. I'm asking you to consider what happens if you keep fighting. More death, more destruction, more families torn apart by violence. And what do you offer instead? Peace. I met their eyes one by one. Legitimate business. Real power that can't be taken away by a bullet or a betrayal. A future for our children that doesn't involve them inheriting a war. It took 3 weeks of negotiations. 3 weeks of threats and promises and carefully calculated concessions. But in the end, they agreed the war was over. I stood on the balcony of the Castiglione estate. Looking out at the city I had fought so hard to control. The Don stood beside me, his face unreadable. You did it, he said. You actually did it. I didn't do it alone. I turned to look at him. I couldn't have done it without you. You could have. He met my eyes. You're stronger than you know, Sophia. Stronger than you've ever been. And someday, when I'm gone, you're going to realize that you never really needed me at all. Maybe not. I smiled, a genuine smile for the first time in years. But I'm glad you were here. He reached out and took my hand. So am I. We stood there in silence, watching the sun set over the city we had built together. 2 people who had once been enemies, now bound by something stronger than hatred. Hope. And for the first time in my life, I believed that maybe, just maybe, everything was going to be okay. But deep in my heart, I knew the peace wouldn't last forever. There would always be someone who wanted what we had. Someone who was willing to kill for it. And when that day came, I would be ready. Because I had learned the most important lesson of all. Power wasn't about violence. It wasn't about control. It was about knowing when to fight and when to make peace. And I had finally figured out how to do both. The wedding was supposed to be the final piece. The cement that would bind the families together and ensure peace for another generation. I was 23 years old, and I was about to marry Rouleau Ferrare, the eldest son of the Don who had once tried to have me killed. Politics made strange bedfellows. And this bed was colder than the basement I had kept Don Matteo in for all those weeks. The dress is beautiful, my mother said, her voice trembling as she adjusted the train. Your father would have been so proud. I looked at myself in the mirror. The white silk, the delicate lace, the diamonds that had belonged to Don Matteo's late wife. I looked like a bride, felt like a hostage. Rouleau is a good man. My mother continued, as if she could read my thoughts. He'll treat you well. He's a Ferrare, I said flatly. They don't treat anyone well. Sophia, please. This is supposed to be the happiest day of your life. Happy. I laughed, but there was no joy in it. Mama, I'm marrying a man I don't love to secure an alliance that won't last 5 years. There's nothing happy about it. She opened her mouth to respond, but a knock on the door interrupted her. Vinny entered, his face grimmed. We have a problem. What kind of problem? Rouleau's been found dead in his dressing room. Someone slit his throat. The world tilted. I grabbed the edge of the vanity, steadying myself. Who? We don't know yet. The Ferraras are recalling it an assassination. They're blaming us. Of course they are. I turned away from the mirror, already pulling off the veil. Where's Don Matteo? In the main hall. He's trying to keep things from escalating. I gathered my skirts and ran. The main hall was chaos. Men shouting, weapons drawn, the air thick with accusation and rage. Don Matteo stood in the center of it all, his hands raised, his voice calm and commanding everyone stop. Now, they didn't stop. A Ferrare soldier lunged at one of my men, and the fighting escalated. I watched in horror as bodies crashed into tables, as blood sprayed across the white tablecloths I had spent weeks choosing. No. I pushed through the crowd, grabbing the NEA rest weapon, a decorative sword from the wall. Stop this. Stop it now. No one listened. No one could hear me over the screams that I did the only thing I could think of. I grabbed the gun from Don Matteo's holster and fired into the ceiling. The sound was deafening. The room fell silent. Listen to me. My voice echoed through the hall. Rouleau Ferrare was murdered. I didn't do it. My people didn't do it. Someone is trying to destroy this alliance, and they're succeeding. How do we know it wasn't you? One of the Ferraras stepped forward, his face twisted with rage. You never wanted this marriage. You made that perfectly clear. I didn't want it, I agreed. But I needed it. And I'm not stupid enough to throw away everything we've built because of my personal feelings. Then I looked around the room. At the families who had come together to celebrate. At the guards who had been paid to protect us. At the servants who had been moving through the halls all morning. And then I saw her. Valentina stood in the corner, her face pale, her hands shaking. She was holding a handkerchief, and on that handkerchief was a stain of red. Valentina. My voice was soft. What are you holding? She looked down at her hands, and the blood drained from her face. I don't know. I found it. In the hallway. I was going to throw it away. Show me. She held out the handkerchief, and I took it. The embroidery on the corner was unmistakable. A small V in silver thread. The same handkerchief she had been crying at her mother's funeral. You killed him. The words came out hollow. You killed Rouleau. No. No, I would never. Then why is your handkerchief covered in his blood? Valentina sta root to cry. Ugly, wrenching sobs that shook her entire body. He was going to hurt you. He told me. The night before the wedding, he came to me and he said he was going to make you suffer. He said he was going to take everything from you, and then he was going to kill you. So you decided to kill him first. I had to. She fell to her knees, her tears streaming down her face. I had to protect you. You're the only family I have left. You're the only person who ever loved me. I sta read at her, my mind reeling. She had killed Rouleau to protect me. She had sacrificed everything for me. And now we were both going to pay. Valentina Castiglione. The Farah R.A. Don stepped forward, his eyes blazing. You just confessed to murdering my son. I didn't confess to anything. She rose to her feet, her TRS suddenly gone, replaced by a cold fury. I said I killed him. I said why? And I'd do it again. You'll die for this. Maybe. She met his gaze steadily. But I'll die knowing I protected the only person who ever mattered to me. The Farah R.A. Don reached for his weapon, and I moved without thinking. I stepped in front of Valentina, my own gun trained on his chest. Don't. Sophia, you can't protect her from this. Watch me. I moved closer to him, close enough that I could see the hatred in his eyes. What's done is done. Killing her won't bring your son back. It will bring me satisfaction. And it will start. Is that what you want? More death, more destruction? I want justice. Then take it from me. I met his eyes. She killed Rouleau to protect me. That makes me responsible. If you want blood, take mine. Sophia, no. Valentina grabbed my ARM. You can't do this. Let me go. I shrugged her off. This is my choice. My responsibility. The Farah R.A. Don studied me for a long moment. Then he said, you would die for her, in a heartbeat. Then you're stronger than I thought. He lowered his weapon. And you're more loyal. I respect that. More than you know. Does that mean you'll let her live? Live, he laughed. But there was no humor in it. No. She killed my son. She can't live. But I'll make it quick. Clean. A bullet to the head instead of the slow death she deserves. That's not acceptable. It's the only offer you're going to get. He turned to his men. Take her. The Farah Ras moved forward, and my men moved to stop them. The hall erupted in chaos again, but this time I was in the middle of it, fighting alongside Valentina, determined to protect her no matter the cost. I took a bullet in the shoulder, another in the leg, but I kept fighting, kept moving, kept protecting her. And when it was over, when the last of the Farah RA soldiers had been taken down, I collapsed to the floor, my vision swimming with pain and exhaustion. Sophia. Valentina knelt beside me, her face streaked with TRS. Sophia, you can't die. You can't leave me. I'm not going to die. I reached up and touched her cheek. I'm too stubborn for that. Don't joke. Not now. I'm not joking. I met her eyes, and I tried to smile. I've survived too much to let a couple of bullets finish me off. Don Matteo Ape read above us, his face pale. She needs a doctor. Now. I'm fine. I tried to sit up, and the world spun around me. I just need, Sophia. His voice was Shah RP. Listen to me. You're bleeding out. If we don't get you to a hospital, you're going to die. I didn't have the strength to argue. I let them lift me onto a stretcher, let them CARRY me through the halls I had walked 1,000 times. The last thing I saw before the darkness took me was Valentina's face, her eyes filled with a love I had never expected to find. When I woke up, I was in a hospital bed. My mother was sitting beside me, her face lined with worried, Sophia. She reached out, and took my hand. You're awake. How long? 3 days. You've been in and out. The doctor said you were lucky. The bullet in your shoulder missed the artery by millimeters. Valentina, safe. My mother squeezed my hand. She's been here every day? She hasn't left your side. Where is she now? Getting coffee. She'll be back soon. I lay back against the pillows, STA ring at the ceiling. Everything had changed. The peace I had worked so hard to build was gone, shattered by one desperate act of love. What happens now? I asked. We rebuild. My mother's voice was firm. We survive. We keep going. I'm tired of rebuilding. Tired of surviving. I want to live. Really live. Without the constant threat of violence and betrayal. Then maybe it's time to walk away. I turned to look at her. Walk away, leave the family. START over somewhere else. Somewhere where no one knows your name. I can't do that. I have responsibilities. People who depend on me. Sophia, listen to me. She leaned closer, her eyes blazing with intensity. You've given everything to this family. Your childhood. Your innocence. Your peace of mind. What have you gotten in return? Power. Power is a prison. She shook her head. It's a cage you build around yourself, and then you pretend you're free. I didn't have an answer for her. Couldn't find the words to explain why I couldn't leave. Why the family had become my identity, my purpose, my reason for being. Valentina returned with the coffee, her face brightening when she saw I was awake. Sophia. She rushed to my bedside, taking my free hand. You're okay. You're really okay. I'm okay. I squeezed her fingers. I'm okay. I'm so sorry. Her eyes filled with tears. This is all my fault. I ruined everything. No. I held her gaze. You saved my life. You did what you thought was right. And I'll always be grateful for that. But the alliance was never going to last. I shook my head. I knew that. I just didn't want to admit it. Then what happens now? Now we figure out the next step. I looked at the two women who had become my family. Together. It took 6 months to rebuild. 6 months of negotiations and concessions and refill diplomacy. The Pharaoh eventually agreed to a truce, though the hatred between us would never fully dissipate. Valentina continued to struggle with what she had done. She spent hours in the den, ring at the flowers, lost in her own thoughts. I tried to reach her, but she was trapped in a prison of guilt and regret. I killed a man, she said one night, her voice hollow. I took a life, and I don't feel bad about it. What does that make me? It makes you human, I wanted to say. It makes you someone who was pushed too far and made a choice but I didn't say it. Because I knew that the only person who could save Valentina was Valentina herself. Root spending more time away from the estate, meeting with community leaders, philanthropists, politicians, building bridges outside the criminal world, trying to create something that would outlast the violence. You're changing, Don Mateo observed one evening. You used to be so focused on power, on control. Now you seem to be looking for something else. What else is there? Meaning. He met my eyes. Purpose. A reason to keep going. And you think I don't have one. I think you're searching for one. He paused. And I think you're closer than you realize. I didn't know what he meant. Couldn't see the path he was pointing to. But I was rooting to believe that maybe, just maybe, there was a way out of this life. A way to be something other than a monster. And I was determined to find it. The news arrived on a Tuesday, delivered by the same federal agent who had been building a case against the Castiglione family for the past decade. I was in my study, reviewing documents for a new legitimate business venture, when Vinny burst through the door without knocking. We have company. Federal agents. Dozens of them. They're surrounding the estate. I didn't panic. Couldn't afford to. I had been preparing for this moment since the night my father died. Had known that eventually, the truth would catch up with me. Let them in, I said calmly. And tell Don Mateo to stay in his quarters. I'll handle this. The agent who led the raid was a woman named Reyes. She was tall, sharp-eyed, and ride herself with the confidence of someone who had been waiting a long time for this moment. Sophia Castiglione. She held up a warrant. You're under arrest for racketeering, money laundering, and conspiracy to commit murder. I didn't resist. I let them cuff me, let them lead me through the estate I had fought so hard to control. The servants watched in silence. The guardias stood frozen. No one moved to stop them. But Don Mateo wasn't in his quarters. He read in the main hall, his face pale, his hands raised. She had nothing to do with this. Everything you're accusing her of, I did. I built this empire. I gave the orders. She was just a child when it all sta root. Don Matteo, don't. I tried to WRN him, but he kept going. Sofia Castiglione is innocent. She tried to change things. She tried to make this family legitimate. I'm the one you want. Agent Reyes looked at him with ba concealed contempt. You're both coming with us. The ride to the federal building was silent. I sat in the back of the UNMA Rked Car, my hands cuffed, my mind racing. The evidence against me was overwhelming. The years of violence. The bodies I had left in my wake. The empire I had built on blood and lies that I was going to prison. Possibly for the rest of my life. Don Matteo was placed in a separate holding cell. I could see him through the bars. His face a mask of controlled fury. He was the only person in the world who understood what I was going through. The only person who had been where I was. The interrogation sta route the next morning. Reyes sat across from me, a file folder open on the table. We have witnesses. We have documents. We have financial records that trace back to every major operation the Castiglione family has run for the past 20 years. You're looking at life in prison, Sofia. Maybe worse. I know what I'm looking at. I met her gaze steadily. But I'm not going to give you what you want. What is it you think I want? Don Matteo's head. You want me to testify against him? To give you the evidence you need to put him away forever? Wouldn't you want that he killed your father? He destroyed your family. He turned you into a criminal. Don Matteo didn't turn me into anything. I leaned four-way road. He wasn't the one who killed my father. He covered it up, yes, but he didn't give the order. And he's been trying to make things right ever since. You expect me to believe that. I expect you to do your job, to look at the evidence, to see the truth. I paused, and the truth is that Don Matteo has changed. He's not the man he used to be. People don't change, Sofia, especially not people like him. Maybe not. I leaned back in my chair. But I have. Reyes studied me for a long moment. What are you offering? Testimony. Full operation. Everything I know about every operation, every family, every crime that's ever been committed. I met her eyes. In exchange for Don Matteo's freedom. You want me to let a known criminal go free, a man who has orchestrated dozens of murders? I want you to give him a chance. I leaned four-way RD again. He's 72 years old. He's been shot, stabbed, and NEARLY killed more times than I can count. He's not going to be running any criminal empires. But he can help you. He can tell you everything you need to know about the families that are still operating. He can give you the names of people you don't even know exist. You're asking me to make a deal with the devil. I'm asking you to do what's right. I met her gaze. Not for me. Not for Don Matteo. For all the people who are still going to die if you don't take this opportunity. She was silent for a long moment. Then she said, I'll think about it. I was led back to my cell. The hours stretched into days. I had no way of knowing what was happening outside, no way of knowing if my gambit had worked. But I had to believe, had to trust that somewhere, somehow, there was justice in this world. The next week, I was brought back to the interrogation room. Reyes was there, along with a man in a suit I didn't recognize. We've reviewed your case, Reyes said, and we've decided to accept your offer. I felt a wave of relief so intense it almost made me dizzy. And Don Matteo, released. Under supervision. He's been given a new identity and will be relocated to a safe location. She paused. But there are conditions. What conditions? You'll testify against every family we ask you to. You'll provide full access to all your records. And you'll never again associate with any known criminal organization. I agree. The terms aren't negotiable, Sofia. I understand. I met her eyes. I'll do whatever it takes to make this right. The months that followed were the hardest of my life. I testified in courtrooms across the country, gave depositions, sat through hours of cross-examination. It was exhausting, demoralizing, and utterly necessary. And through it all, Don Matteo was with me in spirit. His words echoed in my mind, guiding me, giving me strength. You're stronger than you know, he had said. Stronger than you've ever been. And I was. Because I had finally found a purpose that didn't involve violence and betrayal. I was trying to make things right. Trying to undo the damage I had done. It wasn't easy. It wasn't quick. But it was the right thing to do. The last trial was the hardest. I had to testify against members of my own family. People I had grown up with. People who had trusted me. But but I did it anyway. Because I knew that it was the only way to break the cycle of violence. The only way to ensure that no one else would have to suffer the way I had suffered. When it was over, when the last verdict was read and the last gavel came down, I was released from my obligations. Free to walk away from the life I had known. I returned to the estate one last time. The house was empty now, stripped of its former glory. The family was gone. The empire had been dismantled, but I wasn't sad. Because I knew that I had done the right thing. Vinny was waiting for me in the Ga Ruden. The same Ga Ruden where everything had sta root. The same Ga Ruden where I had found 4-leaf clovers with Don Mateo. You did it, he said. You actually did it. I did what I had to do. I sat down on the stone bench beside him. What happens now, I don't know. He looked out at the city. We're free. We can go anywhere. Do anything. I don't know how to be free. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. I've been so focused on survival that I forgot how to live. Then maybe it's time to Leah RN. I was silent for a long moment. Then I said, I'm going to find my mother. She's been waiting for me. She deserves to know that I'm okay. I'll come with you. We walked through the Ga Den together, past the flowers that had witnessed so much pain, past the stone bench where I had sat with Valentina, past the memories that would always haunt me. But I wasn't looking back anymore. I was looking four-way road. Valentina was waiting for us at the front gate. She had been released from custody months ago, her crimes mitigated by the circumstances of C.A. Rouleau's death. She had been waiting for this moment, waiting for me to come home. Sophia. She ran to me, throwing her arms around me. You're free. You're really free. I'm free. I hugged her back, feeling the tears streaming down my face. We're all free. What happens now, she asked, echoing Vinny's question. Now we build something new. I pulled back, looking at her face. Something better. Something that doesn't destroy people. And Don Mateo, he's gone. A new identity. A new life. I don't know where he is, and I don't want to know. It's better this way. For him, for all of us. I walked into the estate one last time. The halls were empty, the rooms stripped of their furnishings. But I didn't see the emptiness. I saw the potential. The chance to start over. Sophia, my mother's voice echoed through the hallway. Sophia, is that you? She read at the top of the stairs, her face lined with worry. When she saw me, she ran down, her arms outstretched. Sophia. She held me close, and I felt the warmth of her embrace. You came back. You came back to me. I came back. I held her tighter. I came back for good. We sat in the empty kitchen, drinking coffee and talking about the future. My mother had been living in a small apartment in the city, waiting for me to finish my obligations. She had never given up on me, had always believed that I would find my way back. Now what, she asked. What are you going to do with your life? I don't know. I looked at the faces around me, the people who had become my family, the people who had never given up on me. But I'm going to figure it out. Together. Vinny reached out and took my hand. Whatever you decide, I'm with you. So am I, Valentina added. We're in this together. I looked at them, these people who had been through so much with me, and I realized that I had found something I never expected. Hoped. Then let's get sta root, I said. Let's build something that lasts. We left the estate that afternoon, walked away from the life that had defined us for so long. Walked toward a future that was uncertain, but full of possibility. And I didn't look back. Because I had finally Leah Rened. The most important lesson of all. Family wasn't about blood. It wasn't about loyalty or obligation, that it was about love. Unconditional, unbreakable love. And I had found it in the most unlikely of places, in the arms of the people who had saved me. I spent the next 3 years learning how to be a different kind of person. Not the calculating strategist who had plotted revenge for any a decade. Not the ruthless Don who had built an empire on Heir. Not the broken girl who had watched her father die and decided the world deserved to burn. I was still all of those people, somewhere deep inside. But I had buried them, locked them away in the same basement where I had once kept Don Mateo, chained to a chair. And I was determined to keep them there. I opened a small bakery on the outskirts of the city. It was nothing grand. A storefront with a few tables, a display case, and an oven that had been here since the 1970s. My mother worked the register. Valentina handled the books. And Vinny did whatever needed to be done, from fixing the plumbing to chasing off the occasional customer who thought they could cause trouble. We weren't rich. We weren't powerful, but we were free. And that was more than I had ever thought I would be. Mama, the croissants are re-burning again. I looked up from the dough I was kneading. My mother was staring at the oven with the same bewildered expression she always wore when confronted with modern appliances. Sophia, I don't understand this machine. It makes noises. It beeps at me. I think it's trying to tell me something. It's telling you the pastries are redone. I walked over and pulled open the oven door, rescuing a tray of perfectly golden croissants. See, they're fine. I don't like it. She shook her head. In the old days, we used wood fires. You could feel the heat. You could smell the bread. Now it's all buttons and lights and progress. I smiled at her. Mama, it's going to be okay. You don't have to understand everything. I understand that my daughter used to run a criminal empire, and now she bakes bread for a living. She threw her hands up. How did this happen? Life, Mama. Life happened. The shop was called Sophia's because I was terrible at coming up with names. It had become a local favorite, known for its fresh bread and the peculae, our assortment of characters who worked there. We had regular RS, the old man who came every morning for a cup of coffee and a plain bagel, the young mother who bought cupcakes for her daughter's birthday, the college students who spent hours studying at our tables while drinking bottomless cups of espresso. And then there were the others, the men who came in wearing suits that cost more than my monthly rent, the ones who watched me with knowing eyes, the ones who whispered to each other in Italian and didn't think I could hear. They knew who I was, what I had been, and they were waiting to see what I would become. One afternoon, a man walked into the shop who made my blood run cold. He was tall, broad-shouldered, and handsome in a dangerous sort of way. He wore a tailored suit and ride himself with the easy confidence of someone who had never been told no. His name was Immersive de Salvo, and he was the head of a rival family that had risen to power in the RS since my testimony. He ordered a coffee and sat down at the table by the window. Then he waited. I knew he was waiting for me. Knew that this wasn't a social call, but I couldn't ignore him. Couldn't pretend he wasn't there. Sophia. He smiled when I approached. It's been too long. Marco. I kept my voice flat. What do you want? I want to talk. Is that so hard to believe? With you, yes. He laughed, and the sound was rm, almost genuine. I always admired your honesty, even when it was inconvenient. What do you want, Marco? I want to offer you something. He leaned back in his chair, studying me. I've heard what you've done with your life. The bakery, the charity work, the community outreach. It's impressive. Spit it out. The families are re-changing, Sophia. There are new players, new alliances, new opportunities. And I think you could be a part of it. I'm not interested. You haven't even heard my offer. I don't need to hear it. I met his eyes. I'm done with that life. I've moved on. Have you? He raised an eyebrow. Because from where I'm sitting, you're still exactly who you've always been. You just dressed it up in different clothes. You don't know me. Don't I? He leaned forward, his voice dropping. I know that you're bored. I know that you miss the power. I know that you've spent 3 years playing at being normal, and it's not working. You're wrong. Am I? He rose from his chair, pulling out a business set and sliding it across the table. Call me when you change your mind. I watched him leave, and I felt something I hadn't felt in rs.fa or not for myself. For the life I had built. For the people I had brought with me. Because Marco de Salvo was right. I was bored. I hated to admit it. Hated that he had seen through me so easily. But the truth was undeniable. The bakery was a nice distraction, but it wasn't fulfilling. Not the way power had been. But power had destroyed me. Had taken everything I loved and twisted it into something ugly and wrong that I couldn't go back. Wouldn't go back. But that didn't mean I didn't think about it. Sophia, your st ring into space again. My mother Ape read at my elbow, her expression concerned. What's wrong? Nothing. Just thinking. About what? About the past. I turned to look at her. Mama, do you ever miss it? The power, the control. Miss it? She shook her head. Sophia, that life almost destroyed us. It almost destroyed you. How could I miss something that NEARLY killed my daughter? Because it made us feel alive. Alive, she laughed, but there was no humor in it. Sophia, that wasn't living. That was surviving. And there's a difference. What's the difference? The difference is that you survived, but you forgot how to live. She reached out and took my hand. You forgot how to be happy, how to love, how to trust. And it took you 3 years to start remembering. I'm still remembering. I know. She squeezed my fingers. And that's why I'm proud of you. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed, sta ring at the ceiling, replaying M.A. Rico's words in my head. You're bored, he had said. You miss the power. It was true. I hated that it was true. But I couldn't deny it. The next day, I went to see Vinny that he was working in the back of the shop, fixing a shelf that had collapsed under the weight of too many flour bags. He looked up when I entered. His expression worried. You've got that look. What look? The look that says you're about to do something stupid. He set down his hammer. What happened? Marcio de Salvo came to the shop yesterday. And he offered me a way back in. Sophia, no. He shook his head. You can't go back to that life. You worked too hard to get out. I know. I told him I wasn't interested. Then what's the problem? The problem is that I'm not sure I told him the truth. He was silent for a long moment. Then he said, I was afraid of this. Afraid of what? Afraid that the peace wouldn't last. Afraid that you'd get bored and start looking for trouble. He stepped closer, his voice dropping. But I was hoping I was wrong. You weren't wrong. So what are you going to do? I don't know. I ran my hands through my hair. I know I can't go back. I know it would destroy everything I've built. But I also know that I can't keep pretending to be something I'm not. What are you, Sophia? Honestly, I met his eyes. I don't know anymore. The weeks that followed were torture. I went through the motions of my daily life, but I was distracted, unfocused. My mind kept drifting back to M.A. Rico's offer, to the life I had left behind. And then, on a Thursday afternoon, everything changed. I was in the bakery when a woman walked in. She was young, maybe 25, with dark hair and haunted eyes. She was holding a baby, wrapped in a blanket that had seen better days. Please, she said, her voice trembling. I need help. I moved her, my instincts taking over. What happened? They killed him. She was shaking now, tears streaming down her face. They killed my husband. And they're coming for me. For the baby. Who's coming for you? The Castigliones. They're going to kill us. The name hit me like a physical blow. The Castigliones, there are no Castigliones anymore. There are. She grabbed my arm, her grip surprisingly strong. They're back. They're taking over again. And they're killing anyone who knew the old Don. I felt the blood drain from my face. Who's leading them? I don't know. I don't know his name. But we are the same rings. They use the same symbols. It's the Castiglione family, and they've come back from the dead. I looked at Vinny, and I knew he was thinking the same thing I was. This was impossible. I had dismantled the family, had testified against every member, had made sure that the organization was destroyed from the inside out. And yet here was proof that it had survived. Stay here. I told the woman. Don't leave. Don't talk to anyone. I'll be back. Where are you going? To find some answers. Vinny followed me out of the shop. Sophia, what are you doing? What I should have done 3 years ago. I got into the car, my hands shaking with adrenaline. I'm going to find out who's been rebuilding my family. And I'm going to stop them. Your family, Sophia, you can't think of them like that anymore. They're not your people. Maybe not. ISTA root the engine. But they're using my name. My legacy. And I'm not going to let that stand. The drive to the old estate took 40 minutes. The gates were closed, but the place was clearly occupied. Lights blazed in the windows. CARS lined the driveway. Guardias patrolled the grounds. This was no ghost of the past. This was a fully functional operation. I parked the CAR and walked toward the gate. The Guardias tensed, their hands moving toward their weapons. Who are you? One of them demanded, Sophia Castiglione. I met his eyes. And I'm here to see whoever's in charge. The Guardias looked at each other, then back at me. One of them pulled out a phone and made a call. A few moments later, the gates swung open. Follow me, the Guardias said. He's waiting for you. I walked through the gates of the estate I had once called home. The gardens were immaculate, the fountains flowing, the house restored to its former glory. Everything was exactly as I remembered it. And then I saw him. Don Mateo was sitting in the garden, exactly where I had left him 3 years ago. But he wasn't broken anymore. He wasn't the defeated old man I had chained to a chair in the basement. He was the Don. The real Don. The man who had built an empire and ruled with an iron fist, Sophia. He smiled when he saw me. I knew you'd come. I thought you were gone. My voice was B.A. Relia whisper. I thought you'd sta root a new life. I did. He rose from his chair, walking Tawa, RD me. And then I realized I couldn't escape who I really was. So I came back. To rebuild the family, to rebuild what we had. What we were. He stopped in front of me. And to give you a chance to come home. I can't go back. You can. He reached out and took my hand. Because you never really left, Sophia. You just pretended you did. But deep down, you know the truth. What truth? That you were born for this. That you're stronger, SMA rooter, and more capable than anyone I've ever known. And that the life you've been living is a shadow of what you deserve. What I deserve, I laughed bitterly. You turned me into a monster. No, Sophia. I turned you into a survivor. And there's a difference. I pulled my hand free. I'm not coming back. You will. He smiled. And it was the same knowing smile I had seen 1,000 times before. You'll come back because you know that this is where you belong. This is where you're meant to be. I walked away without looking back. But his words echoed in my mind. And I knew they were true. I was a survivor. And survivors didn't run from who they really were. They embraced it. I went back to the bakery the next morning like nothing had happened. Served coffee, baked bread, smiled at customers. I was so good at pretending by now that even I almost believed it. But my mother knew. She always knew. You went to see him. She cornered me in the back room while Vinny was out making deliveries. Don Mateo, you went to see him. I had to know. Know what? She grabbed my arm. Her grip surprisingly strong for a woman her age. That he's still the same man who destroyed our family, that he's been lying to you this whole time. Mama, you don't understand. Then make me understand. Her eyes blazed with fury. Tell me why you would go back to the man who killed your father. Because I need closure. I pulled free, my voice rising. Because I spent 10 years hating him, and then I spent 3 years trying to forget him, and neither of those things worked. I need to face him. I need to understand. Understand what? Understand why I can't let go. I met her eyes, and I felt the TRS threatening to spill over. Understand why a pa-RT of me still wants to be pa-RT of that world. Understand why I feel more alive standing in that GA den than I've ever felt behind this counter. Her face crumpled. Sophia, no. I'm sorry, Mama. I know it's not what you wanted to hear, but it's the truth. The silence between us was heavy, suffocating. And then she did something I didn't expect. She hugged me. I'm not angry. She whispered into my hair. I'm SCA red. SCA red that I'm going to lose you again. You're not going to lose me. I'm right here. Ariyu, she pulled back, her eyes sea-urching my face. Because it feels like you're already gone. I didn't have an answer for her. Because she was right. I spent the next week trying to be normal. I baked. I served. I smiled. But every night, when I closed my eyes, I saw Don Mateo's face. He wrote his voice, this is where you belong. Vinny noticed. Of course he did. He had been watching me since I was 7 years old, and he knew every sign of trouble. You're going back, he said one evening, standing in the doorway of the bakery. I don't know what you're talking about. Yes, you do. He stepped inside, his massive frame filling the small space. You're going back to the estate. Back to Don Mateo. Back to the life you left behind. I haven't decided anything. Haven't you? He crossed his arms. Sophia, I've known you for 16 years. I know that look in your eyes. You've already made up your mind. Then why are you trying to stop me? Because I see a about you. His voice was raw, honest in a way Rely allowed himself to be. Because I watched you destroy yourself trying to take him down, and I watched you rebuild yourself from nothing. And I can't watch you throw it all away. I'm not throwing anything away. Then what are you doing? I met his eyes, and I told him the truth. I'm going back to finish what I sta root. Finish what you sta root. You already finished it. You won. He was in chains. You had everything. And then I walked away. I let him go. I let the family crumble. I shook my head. I thought that was what I wanted. But it wasn't. It was just running away. Running away from what? From the truth. I stepped closer. Vinny, I spent my whole life fighting against that world. Against the violence and the betrayal and the killing. But I never stopped to ask myself why I was fighting. Why it mattered so much. Because it killed your father. Because I thought it killed my father. I shook my head. But that's not the whole truth. The truth is that I was fighting because I was afraid. Afraid of becoming like them. Afraid of losing myself. Afraid of facing the darkness that's always been inside me. And now I'm not afraid anymore. I met his eyes. I'm going back to face that darkness. And this time, I'm not going to run away. He was silent for a long moment. Then he said, then I'm coming with you. Vinny, you don't have to. Of course I do. He reached out and took my hand. You're my family, Sophia. And I'm not going to let you face this alone. The next morning, we drove to the estate. The gates opened as we approached, as if they had been expecting us. I wasn't surprised. Don Mateo was waiting in the GA den, exactly where I had left him. He looked older now, more tired. But his eyes were sharp, watchful. Sophia. He nodded as I approached. I knew you'd come back. Stop saying that. You don't know anything. I know you. He smiled, and it was almost gentle. I know that you're not the kind of person who can walk away from a fight. I know that you need to understand, to control, to make sense of the chaos. And I know that the life you've been living is a lie. The life I've been living is the truth. I'm not a criminal anymore. I'm not a killer. Are you sure? He walked toward me, his footsteps silent on the grass. Because I see the same fire in your eyes that was there when you were 7 years old. The same hunger. The same drive. You're wrong. Am I? He stopped in front of me, close enough that I could see the lines on his face. Then tell me why you came back. Tell me why you're standing in this GA den, having this conversation, instead of staying in your little bakery and pretending none of this exists. I didn't have an answer. Couldn't find the words. Let me tell you why, he continued. Because you're curious. Because you need to know what I've been doing. Because you want to see if you made the right choice walking away. I didn't make the right choice. No. He shook his head. You didn't. Because there is no right choice, Sophia. There's only the choice you make and the consequences that follow. And you've been running from those consequences for 3 years. I've been trying to make things right. Have you? He raised an eyebrow. Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you've been hiding. Playing it being normal while the world burns around you. The world isn't burning. Not yet. His voice was soft, almost gentle. But it will be. Because the family's restless. They've had 3 years to lick their wounds and plan their revenge. And you, the woman who betrayed them, still walking free. I testified against them. I helped put them away. Yes. And they haven't forgotten. He stepped closer. They're coming, Sophia. And when they do, your bakery and your charity work and your little pretend life isn't going to save you. Then what will me? He met my eyes. Us. The family. The life you left behind. Because that's the only thing that's ever been strong enough to protect you. Vinny stepped forward, his hand on his weapon. Don't listen to him, Sophia. He's manipulating you. He's always been manipulating you. Maybe. I met Don Mateo's eyes. But that doesn't mean he's wrong. The estate was alive with activity. Soldiers patrolled the grounds. Men in suits moved through the halls. The old empire was rising from the ashes, stronger than ever. And I was at the center of it all. That I had agreed to work with Don Mateo. Not to join the family, not to become a criminal again, but to help him navigate the dangerous waters of the underworld. To use my knowledge and connections to protect the people I read about. Sophia, are you sure about this? Valentina had come to the estate the moment she heard I was back. Her face was pale, her eyes wide with concern. I'm sure. But this is what you left. This is what almost destroyed you. This is what I created. I turned to look at her. And I'm not going to let anyone else destroy it. You're not the Don anymore. No. I shook my head. But I'm still a Castiglione. And that means something. The meeting with the heads of the families was scheduled for the next week. A summit, Don Mateo called it. A chance to negotiate a new peace. I knew it was a trap. Knew that the families had been waiting for this moment. But I went anyway. The meeting was held in the ballroom of the Castiglione estate. The same ballroom where I had knelt in blood at 7 years old. The same ballroom where I had killed my first man. The families arrived in force. The Gallos, the Rossis, the Pharaoh Ras. They were all there, their faces hard, their eyes watchful. Sophia. Marso de Salvo was among them, his smile as charming as ever. I wondered when you'd come back to us. I never left. No. He laughed. You just pretended to. Very convincingly, I might add. Let's get sta root. Don Mateo's voice cut through the chatter. We're here to talk about the future. The future, one of the Pharaoh Ras laughed. You had your chance at the future, old man. And you lost it. I lost nothing. Don Mateo rose from his chair. I was betrayed, imprisoned, tortured, and yet I'm still standing, still fighting, still leading. Leading what? The Pharaoh Don stepped four-way road. You have no empire, no soldiers, no power. All you have is a name and a reputation that's been destroyed. You're wrong. I spoke before I could stop myself. He has me. The room went silent. All eyes turned to me. You, the Pharaoh Don laughed. You're nothing. A traitor. A rat. You turned on your own family. I turned on the people who killed my father. I met his eyes. And I'd do it again. Then why are you here? Why are you standing with him? Because he's the only one who can stop what's coming. I walked to the center of the room. The family's at war. You've been killing each other for years. And it's never going to stop until someone puts an end to it. And you think that someone is you? No. I shook my head. I think that someone is us. All of us. Together. Together. Marcio raised an eyebrow. You want us to form an alliance after everything you've done? I want us to form a new family. I looked around the room. A family that isn't based on violence and betrayal. A family that's based on trust. Trust. One of the Dons laughed bitterly. You expect us to trust you? No. I met his eyes. I expect you to give me a chance to EAR in it. The room was silent for a long moment. Then Marcio rose from his chair. Sophia, I've always admired you. He walked toward me, his steps measured and deliberate. Your courage, your determination, your refusal to back down. But I also know that you're a liar, a schemer, a woman who will do whatever it takes to get what she wants. You're right. I met his gaze. I will do whatever it takes. And right now, what it takes is making you understand that I'm serious. How serious? Serious enough to give you proof. I pulled a folder from my jacket and tossed it onto the table. That's everything I know about the federal investigation into the families. Every agent, every informant, every piece of evidence they have. The room erupted. Men shouted. Chairs scraped against the floor. Everyone was talking at once. Are you insane? Vinny grabbed my ARM. You're handing them classified information. You're putting yourself in danger. I'm protecting myself. I pulled free. I'm making them understand that they need me. That I'm the only one who can keep them safe. You're playing a dangerous game. I know. I met his eyes. But I've been playing dangerous games my whole life. The families agreed to a truce. They had no choice. The information I had given them was too valuable, too dangerous. They needed me to keep them informed. And I needed them to keep me alive, but Don Mateo was watching me with something that looked like approval. You're more like me than you realize, he said later. When we were alone in his study, I know. I poured myself a glass of whiskey. That's what SCA residential me the most. You shouldn't be SCA red. He walked toward me, his footsteps echoing on the marble floor. You should be proud. You've just done something that no one else could do. What's that? You've brought them together. He stopped in front of me. The families, the enemies, the people who hated each other. You've made them see that they're stronger together. I didn't do it for them. I did it for myself. Does it matter? He reached out and touched my cheek. The result is the same. I pulled away. Don't touch me. Still so angry. He smiled, but there was no RMTH in it. After everything we've been through, after everything I've done for you, everything you've done for me, you killed my father. I didn't kill him. You let him die? You covered it up. Yes. He met my eyes. And I would do it again. Because your father was a threat to everything I'd built, to everything I loved. And what about me? Was I a threat to? No. He shook his head. You were a child, an innocent, and I tried to protect you from the truth. By lying to me, by manipulating me, by giving you a chance. His voice was fierce. A chance to be something more than a victim. A chance to take control of your own life. And look what you've become. What have I become? A survivor. He stepped closer. A leader. A woman who can bring the families together when no one else can. I didn't have an answer. Couldn't find the words. Because he was right that I had become everything he wanted me to be. And I hated him for it. But I also needed him. And that was the most dangerous truth of all that the alliance held for exactly 2 months. 2 months of tense meetings, CA refill negotiations, and the constant, gnawing fear that someone was going to break the fragile peace. I spent most of those nights ring at the ceiling of my old room in the estate, replaying every conversation, every glance, every moment that might have been a warning sign. And then the Gallo family attacked. Not the whole family, just a faction. A splinter group led by a young hothead named Luca Gallo who had decided that his father was too weak, too willing to compromise, too comfortable with peace. He gathered a handful of loyalists and launched a raid on one of the rivalry houses, killing 6 men and burning the building to the ground. The Farah retaliated. The Rossis picked a side, and suddenly, the peace I had worked so hard to build was nothing but a distant memory. The Gallos are asking for a meeting, Don Matteo said, his voice flat. They want to negotiate a ceasefire. Negotiate? I laughed, and there was no humor in it. They root this. They burned down a Wari house and killed 6 men. Now they want to talk. They want to save face. They know they made a mistake. But they're not going to admit it without some kind of concession. What kind of concession? Territory. Money. A show of force that makes them look strong. He shook his head. The same old game. The same old moves. I looked at him, and for the first time, I saw the exhaustion in his eyes. The weariness of a man who had been fighting this same war for decades. You're tired. I said, I'm old. He met my gaze. And I'm tired of watching everything I've built fall apart. Then let me handle it. He raised an eyebrow. Handle it, Sophia. This isn't a negotiation. This is a declaration of war. I know. I walked to the window. Ring out at the city that had always been mine to protect. And I know how to end it. How? By giving them something they can't refuse. I called the meeting myself. Not at the estate. Not in neutral territory. I called it in the same ballroom where I had almost died 9 years ago, where I had killed Enzo Moretti, where I had watched Don Matteo's empire crumble and rise again. That the families came because they had no choice. Because they knew that if they didn't come, they would be seen as weak. And in this world, weakness was death. Luca Gallo was the first to arrive. He was young, arrogant, and clearly convinced that he was ruder than everyone else in the room. He had the easy confidence of a man who had never been truly tested. Sophia. He smiled as he approached, but the smile didn't reach his eyes. I was hoping you'd come. I wouldn't miss this for the world. I motioned for him to sit. Shall we get root? The others arrived in waves. The Ferraras, the Rossis, the DeSalvos. They filled the room with their tension, their suspicion, their concealed hatred. Let's cut to the chase. I stood at the head of the table, my voice rang across the room. We all know why we're here. The Gallo family attacked the Ferraras. The Ferraras retaliated. And now we're on the brink of a war that none of us can afford. We can afford it just fine, Luca Gallo said, his voice dripping with contempt. It's you who can't afford it. You and your little alliance of old men and traitors. Refill Luca. Don Matteo's voice was ice. You're talking about my family. Your family, Luca laughed. Your family is a joke. You're a broken old man who can't even control his own house. And she? He pointed at me. She's a traitor who sold out her own blood. Watch your mouth. Vinny moved forward, his hand on his weapon. Stop. I raised my hand. He's trying to provoke us. Don't give him the satisfaction. What I want, Luca continued, is what my father should have taken years ago. Control of the territory. Control of the families. Control of everything you've been clinging to. And you think you can take it? I know I can. He leaned forward, his eyes blazing with confidence. Because I have something you don't. What's that, balls? He laughed, and the sound echoed through the room. You've been running this family like it's a charity, trying to make deals and shake hands. But this isn't a charity. It's a war. And the only way to win is to fight. I looked at him, this arrogant boy who thought he understood the world. Thought he understood me. And I smiled. You're right, I said. This is a war. And I've been fighting it for a lot longer than you have. Fighting it, you've been hiding from it. No. I walked around the table, stopping directly in front of him. I've been preparing for it. Every single day since I was 7 years old. I've been watching, running, waiting for the moment when I would have to step up and do what needed to be done. And you think that moment is now? I think it's been now for a long time. I met his eyes. I just didn't want to admit it. He reached for his weapon, but I was faster. The knife I had been carrying since I was 12 years old was already in my hand, pressed against his throat. Don't. My voice was soft, almost gentle. Don't make this any harder than it has to be. You wouldn't agree. His eyes were wide, his confidence evaporating. The other families would never. The other families are going to do exactly what I tell them to do. I looked around the room. Because they know what happens when they cross me. They know what I've done. And they know I'll do it again. Sophia. Don Mateo's voice was calm, measured. This isn't the way. This is the only way. I pressed the blade rider. The Gallo family has been a threat to every single person in this room. They've attacked us, killed our people, and tried to destroy the peace we built. And I'm not going to let that stand. So what are you going to do? Kill me? Luca laughed. But there was a tremor in his voice. That won't stop the others. My people will just come after you. Let them. I pulled the knife away, stepping back. Let them come. And when they do, they'll Leah are in the same lesson you're about to Leah are in. And what lesson is that? The lesson that I'm not someone you can push around. I sheathed my knife and walked back to the head of the table. The lesson that I've survived more than anyone in this room. And I'm not about to let some arrogant boy destroy everything I've built. The room was silent. Everyone was watching me, waiting for my next move. I'm giving you a choice, Luca. I met his eyes. You can walk out of here right now. You can take your people and leave the city. You can start over somewhere else. Far away from the families. And I'll let you live. And if I refuse, then you'll die. My voice was flat. Not tonight. Not tomorrow. But eventually. Because I will find you. And I will make sure that you pay for everything you've done. He read at me for a long moment. Then he laughed. You're bluffing. He shook his head. You don't have the courage to follow through. Don't I? I smiled, and I knew it wasn't a nice smile. Then test me. See what happens. He looked around the room, at the faces of the other Dons. They were watching him with expressions that ranged from curiosity to contempt. He was alone in this room, surrounded by enemies. And he knew it. Fine. He rose from his chair, his face pale with rage. I'll go. But this isn't over, Sophia. I'll be back. And when I come back, I'll destroy everything you love. You're welcome to try. I watched him walk toward the door. But I wouldn't get your hopes up. The door closed behind him, and the room erupted. Everyone was talking at once, shouting questions and demands and accusations. Enough. I slammed my hand on the table, and the room fell silent. I'm not going to negotiate with anyone tonight. I'm not going to make any deals. I'm going to do something I've never done before. What's that? Marco de Salvo asked. His eyes worried. I'm going to trust you. I looked around the room. All of you. I'm going to trust that you want peace more than you want war. And I'm going to give you a chance to prove it. How? One of the other Dons asked. By working together. I met his eyes. By putting aside the old grudges and the old hatreds and building something new. Something better. You're asking for the impossible. Maybe. I shrugged. But I've already done the impossible once. And I'm willing to do it again. The meeting ended with a tentative agreement. The families would work together to root out the Gallo faction. They would share information and resources. They would try to trust each other that it wasn't perfect. It wasn't even close to perfect. But it was a start, and in this world, a start was everything. That night, I sat alone in the Ga Reden. The same Ga Reden where I had found 4-leaf clovers with Don Mateo. The same Ga Reden where I had planned my revenge. The stars were out, bright and cold in the winter sky. I wrapped my coat tighter around myself and watched them. You did well today. I turned to find Don Mateo approaching. He was wearing a heavy coat and leaning on a cane. The ARS were catching up with him. I didn't do anything special. You brought them together. He sat down on the bench beside me. You made them see that they need each other. That's more than I ever did. You did plenty. I did what I had to do. He was silent for a long moment. But I never believed in peace. I always thought it was a fantasy, a dream that would never come true. And I made choices based on that belief. Choices that destroyed people. Choices that almost destroyed you. You did what you had to do. You're saying that because you think it's what I need to hear. He shook his head. But it's not true. I could have done things differently. I could have been better. And I wasn't. You changed. Did I? He turned to look at me. Or did I just get old and tired? I didn't have an answer for him. Because I didn't know Sophia. He reached out and took my hand. I want you to know something. Something I've never told anyone. What? I'm proud of you. His voice was soft, almost lost in the night air. I'm proud of the woman you've become. I'm proud of everything you've accomplished. And I'm sorry. For what? For everything. He squeezed my hand. For the pain I caused. For the lies I told. For the ARS I made you hate yourself because you thought you were becoming like me. You didn't make me hate myself. No, but I didn't stop it either. He met my eyes. I should have told you the truth from the beginning. Should have told you that you were never the monster you thought you were. And what am I? A survivor. He smiled, and it was genuine. A strong, brave, incredible survivor. And I'm honored to have known you. I felt the TRS pricking at my eyes. Don't get sentimental on me, old man. Too late. He laughed, a wah-rm, rumbling sound. I've already crossed that line. We sat there in silence for a long time. Two people who had been through so much. Who had hurt each other and loved each other and found their way back to each other. And for the first time in my life, I felt like I was exactly where I was supposed to be. Don Mateo, I said finally. What happens now? Now we build. He looked out at the city. We build something that lasts. Something that can withstand the violence and the betrayal and the hatred. And if we can't, then we try again. He turned to look at me. Because that's what we do. We never stop trying. I nodded, and for the first time in Yaris, I believed him. We spent the next few weeks in a frenzy of activity. Meetings, negotiations, carefully calculated concessions. The families were slowly coming together, united by a common enemy and a common goal, but the Gallo faction was still out there. Still plotting. Still waiting for the right moment to strike. And I knew that moment was coming. I just didn't know when. The end came on a Thursday. Just like everything else that mattered in my life. I was in the GA den when the first shots rang out. The same GA den where I had found 4-leaf clovers with the man who had destroyed my family and then helped me rebuild it. The same GA den where I had sat with Valentina and planned a future that had seemed impossible. The bullets tore through the air, shredding the flowers I had planted with my own hands. I hit the ground, rolling behind a stone bench as the second volley ripped through the space where I had been standing. Sophia. Vinny's voice cut through the chaos. He was running Tawa Ardimi, his massive frame a shield against the incoming fire. They're here. The Gallo faction. They've breached the walls. I know. I grabbed the weapon he tossed me and scrambled to my feet. Where's Don Mateo? In the house. With Valentina. They're securing the perimeter. Get to them. Protect them. Sophia, I'm not leaving you. You don't have a choice. I met his eyes. They're coming for him. They've always been coming for him. I'm just a distraction. You're not a distraction. You're the target. Then let them come. I raised my weapon and fired into the treeline. A body crumpled. I've been running from them long enough. The battle was brutal. The Gallo faction had brought more men than I had expected, and they were determined to take the estate at any cost. I fought alongside my people, moving through the chaos with a cold, practiced efficiency. This was what I had been trained for. What I had been born for. The violence. The danger. The thrill of the fight. And in that moment, I realized that Don Mateo had been right. This was who I was. Who I had always been. And I was finally ready to accept it. Sophia. Valentina Ape read at my side. Her face streaked with blood. They're inside. They've reached the main hall. Where's Don Mateo? Still fighting. He won't retreat. Of course he won't. I grabbed her ARM and pulled her Tawa RD the house. We need to get to him. We fought our way through the halls, past the bodies of friends and enemies alike. The house that had been my home for so many years was now a battlefield, and I was determined to protect it. When I reached the main hall, I saw him. Don Mateo was standing in the center of the room, surrounded by a circle of Gallo soldiers. His weapon was empty. His face was pale, but his eyes were still blazing with defiance. Luca Gallo stood in front of him, a smug smile on his face. So, Lucas said, his voice echoing through the hall. This is how it ends. The great Don Mateo Castiglione, brought down by the son of the man he betrayed. Your father was a fool. Don Mateo's voice was steady. And you're worse. I'm not here to argue. Luca raised his weapon. I'm here to finish what he sta root. Then do it. Don Mateo met his eyes. But know that you're not going to get what you want. You're not going to take the families. You're not going to take the empire. You're just another ambitious boy who thought he could win. Watch me. Luca raised his weapon, and I moved without thinking. The bullet that was meant for Don Mateo hit me instead. I felt it tear through my shoulder, felt the impact knock me to the ground. The pain was blinding, white hot, but I didn't scream. I raised my own weapon and fired. Luca Gallo went down, a hole in his chest that would never heal. His body hit the marble floor with a dull thud, and the room fell silent. Sophia. Don Mateo was at my side in an instant, his hands pressing against my wound. Sophia, stay with me. I'm okay. I tried to smile, but the pain was too much. I've had worse. Don't talk. He was shouting now, calling for a doctor, for help, for anything. Don't you dare close your eyes. I'm not going to close my eyes. I reached up and touched his face. I'm not going to die. You'd better not. His voice cracked. You'd better not, because I can't do this without you. I can't do any of this without you. Then you're going to have to Leah RN. I felt the darkness creeping in at the edges of my vision. Because I'm going to be taking a little break. Sophia, no. Matteo. I used his name for the first time. It's going to be okay. I promise. The darkness took me, and I let it go. I woke up in a hospital bed for the second time in my life. The ceiling was white, the sheets were white, and the only color in the room was the face of the man sitting beside me. Don Matteo, you're awake. His voice was hoa rse, his eyes red-rimmed. You've been out for 3 days. 3 days. I tried to sit up, and the pain in my shoulder reminded me why that was a bad idea. What happened? You saved my life. He reached out and took my hand. Again, you saved my life and almost lost yours in the process. I told you I wasn't going to die. You also told me you were going to take a break. He managed a weak smile. That's not a break, Sophia. That's a NEAR death experience. Details. I looked around the room. Where's everyone else? Vinny's outside. He's been here the whole time. Your mother's in the waiting room. She's been praying nonstop. He paused. And Valentina's in the chapel. She's been asking God to save you. She doesn't believe in God. I know. He smiled. That's how you know she was serious. I laughed, and the pain in my shoulder made me wince. Ow. Don't make me laugh. Sorry. He squeezed my hand. I'll try to be less funny. Please do. We sat there in silence for a long moment. The kind of silence that didn't need to be filled. What happened to Luca? I finally asked. Dead. Your shot killed him instantly. He paused. The rest of his faction surrendered. They're in custody, waiting for you to decide what to do with them. What do you think I should do? I think you should do what you always do. He met my eyes. I think you should show them mercy. Give them a chance to change. The way you gave me a chance. That's a big gamble. It is. He nodded. But you've never been afraid of taking risks. I was silent for a long moment. Then I said, bring them to me. I want to talk to them. Sophia, you're in no condition to. I'm fine. I tried to sit up again, and this time I succeeded. I'm alive. I'm awake. And I'm ready to do what needs to be done. The Gallo faction soldiers were brought to the hospital. All of them. They stood in my room, their faces pale, their hands cuffed. Sophia Castiglione. One of them, a young man no older than I was, stepped forward. Road. We're not going to beg. We know what we did. We knew the risks. Then you also know that I could have you all killed. We do. And you're not going to try to negotiate. There's nothing to negotiate. He met my eyes. We lost. You won. It's as simple as that. I studied him for a long moment. He was brave. I'd give him that. Stupid, but brave. What's your name? I asked. Marco. He paused. Marco Gallo. Luca's brother. I felt a flash of recognition. You didn't attack me. I didn't attack anyone. I wanted peace. He shook his head. But my brother wouldn't listen. He was too hungry for power. And now I'm here. He met my eyes, waiting for you to decide my fate. I looked at him, this young man who had tried to stop a war, who had lost his brother to the violence he had tried to prevent it. And I made a decision. You're free to go. The room erupted. Everyone was talking at once, shouting questions and demands. Enough. I raised my hand, and the room fell silent. Marco, you're free to go. You can take your men with you. You can go anywhere you want. Start a new life. Be free. I don't understand. He shook his head. Why would you let me go? Because I know what it's like to be trapped by your family's choices. I met his eyes. I know what it's like to want something different, but not know how to get it. And I'm giving you a chance. A chance for what? A chance to be better. I paused. You don't have to be your brother. You don't have to be your father. You can be whoever you want to be. He was silent for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. I won't forget this, he said. I won't forget what you did for me. Good. I leaned back against my pillows. Now get out of here. I need to rest. He left, followed by his men. The door closed behind them, and I was alone with Don Matteo. You just let the brother of your enemy walk free, he said. That's either the bravest thing I've ever seen or the stupidest. Maybe it's both. Probably. He sat down beside my bed. So what happens now with the families, with the empire? Now we build. I looked at him. We build something new. Something that doesn't destroy people. Something that creates hope instead of fear. And you think you can do that? I think we can. I reached out and took his hand. Together. He was silent for a long moment. Then he said, "You're more like your father than you realize. My father was a federal agent who died trying to bring down your family." Yes. He nodded. And he believed in justice. In doing the right thing. In making the world a better place. He paused. And so do you. I looked at him. This man who had been my enemy, my mentor, my prisoner, my ally. And I realized that I no longer hated him, that I couldn't hate him anymore. Because hating him was like hating a part of myself. "What do you want, Matteo?" I asked. "What do you really want?" "I want to see you happy." He met my eyes. "I want to see you build something that lasts. Something that outlives the violence and the hatred. Something that makes the world better. And if I can't, then you'll try again." He squeezed my hand. "Because that's what you do. You never stop trying." I smiled. "You know me too well. I've known you for 16 years." He smiled back. "I'd be a terrible mentor if I didn't." We sat there in comfortable silence, two people who had been through so much together. And for the first time in my life, I felt like I was exactly where I was supposed to be. The weeks that followed were a blur of activity. I recovered from my wound, met with the families, and began the slow process of building a new world. Marcio Gallo became an unlikely ally. He had taken my words to heart, had root a legitimate business that employed former soldiers from all the families. He was proof that people could change. I visited my mother every day. She had moved back to the estate, had taken over the running of the household. She was happier than I had ever seen her. I think she finally understood that I wasn't going to be the person she had feared I would become. I made peace with my father's death. Not by forgetting him, but by honoring him. Root de charity in his name. A foundation that helped families of federal agents who had died in the line of duty. It was small, but it was meaningful. And root to believe that maybe, just maybe, I deserve to be happy. "Sophia, you have a visitor." I looked up from my desk to find Vinny standing in the doorway of my study. "Who is it?" "Marcio Gallo." He paused, and he brought someone with him. I followed Vinny to the main hall. Marcio was standing in the center of the room, his arm around a young woman I didn't recognize, Sophia. He smiled when he saw me. "I wanted to introduce you to someone." "Who is she?" "My wife." He squeezed her hand. "And the mother of my unborn child. I wanted you to be the first to know." I looked at them. This young couple who had found each other despite the violence that had surrounded them. And I felt something I hadn't felt in years. "Hope. Congratulations," I said. "I'm happy for you." "I wanted to thank you," Marcio said, "for giving me a chance. For showing me that I didn't have to be my brother. You did the work yourself." "Maybe." He smiled. "But you gave me the opportunity." After they left, I walked to the GA den. The same GA den where everything had root. The flowers were in bloom, filling the air with their perfume. Don Matteo was sitting on the stone bench, watching the sunset. "Sophia." He looked up as I approached. "I heard about Marcio Gallo. That was a good thing you did." "He did it himself." "No." He shook his head. "He did it because of you. Because you showed him that there was another way." I sat down beside him on the bench. "What happens now? Now we live." He looked out at the city. "We live our lives and try to make the world a little bit better. And if we fail, then we try again." He turned to look at me. "Because that's what we do." We sat there in silence, watching the sun sink below the horizon. The same sun that had risen over my father's death, over my years of hatred, over my journey of redemption. And for the first time in my life, I felt truly at peace. "Matteo," I said finally. "Yes, thank you." I turned to look at him. "For everything." "You don't have to thank me, Sophia. I'm the one who should be thanking you. You saved my life. And you saved mine." He reached out and took my hand. We saved each other. I looked at the man who had been my enemy and my friend, my mentor and my prisoner, my past and my future. And I realized that I had finally found what I had been searching for all these years. Family. Love. Redemption. Everything I had ever wanted. Everything I had ever needed. "Sophia." His voice was soft. "Are you okay?" "I'm more than okay." I squeezed his hand. "I'm home." And I was. because home wasn't a place. It wasn't a house or an estate or a city. It was the people who loved you. The people who had been through the darkness with you and had come out the other side. It was Vinny, who had watched over me since I was a child. It was my mother, who had never given up on me. It was Valentina, who had sacrificed everything to protect me. It was Marcio Gallo, who had found a better path. And it was Don Matteo, the man who had been my enemy and my ally, my tormentor and my savior. I had spent my entire life fighting. Fighting for justice. Fighting for revenge. Fighting for survival. But now, sitting in this den with the people I loved, I realized that the fighting was finally over. It was time to live. And I was ready.